There is no higher duty than the protection of our citizens from dangerous crime and terrorism. The leader of the Liberal Party, we all know that both of our parties voted in favour of these anti-terror measures. Bob Rae, a candidate for the leadership, as we all know, has said that the opposition of the Liberal leader could well impact investigations into the Air India incident. I know that other prominent Liberals have spoken out in favour of this, Anne McClellan, John Manley, the member for Mount Royal, the member for Etobicoke North, yet the leader of the Liberal Party is being led by extremist elements in his own caucus. I'd suggest, Mr. Speaker, that he get behind his own...
Mr. Dion has listened very carefully to all of those perspectives in the party, and it's his prerogative as leader to take the decision. He has taken that decision.
How many of your MPs might vote with the government?
I have no doubt the vast majority of our caucus will be solidly united on this issue.
And it's a whip vote?
And there's not going to, yes, it's a whip vote, and there's not going to be any lingering issue of dissension around this issue.
Well, we had a good debate, and we make our decision. It was not an easy decision. It's a difficult choice to make, but we are comfortable that we have made the best decision for Canadians.
So is your decision final? Mr. Dion, is your decision final? Because Mr. Calder's talking
Yes, no, the decision is final, and we made the good decision for Canadians.
We speak from the first-hand experience that Canada is not immune from terrorist attacks. We are asking all members of the Parliament to support the Anti-terrorism Act measures to protect Canadians. There is no greater duty for the government than the protection of its citizens.
The Vancouver Sun has learned that the father-in-law of the Member of Parliament for Mississauga-Brampton is on...
The Prime Minister has just confirmed that to him, partisan advantage is everything. The truth doesn't matter. It's the allegation that counts. Never mind what the facts are in the final analysis. He's just proved his devious and deceitful behavior, and he doesn't pay any attention to the consequences to any Canadian. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister withdraw those allegations and apologize to this House?
Liberal Party can choose to ignore, if it wants, what's in the newspapers. They can choose to ignore what they want from this party. What they should not ignore, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that even the Air India families say that the position that they are now taking will jeopardize the police investigation into the Air India Terrorism Act. The Liberal Party has no excuse for that position. It's an irresponsible position, and they should change that position.
This is not the point. The point is that the Prime Minister tried to tarnish the reputation of a member of this House in a so low manner that I've never seen it in 11 years in this Parliament.
What do you say to people like the Air India families, or some of them at least, or police in British Columbia who say they absolutely need these provisions right now to proceed with an investigation into Air India?
First, about this kind of tool, investigating hearings, it's creating problems regarding the protection of individual rights, and it's not been helpful at all.
But Mr. Dion, the Supreme Court has said, Mr. Dion, sorry to interrupt you, but I think it's important to point out that the Supreme Court has ruled...
No, but I was trying to answer your question.
Okay.
You were speaking about Air India, is why I was trying to
Yes,
answer.
and the Supreme Court the Supreme Court has ruled that these provisions are constitutional.
Yes, according to Article 1, it was a divided decision of the court. So the court itself is recognizing that it's creating problems. Article 1, people should know, it's when we think, yes, it's creating problems regarding the Charter, but in a democratic society, we may tolerate it. So it's at the fringe of what we may accept.
Would you be willing to compromise on this, sir, as both a Commons committee and today a Senate committee is asking for that these clauses be extended with some sort of buffer around them, protective measures to make sure these clauses are not abused?
Well, the government is not willing to do so. The government had the time to do so.
We've actually offered that, Susan. We've said, listen, if you, be it the Liberals or anyone else, has suggestions on how this can be, their concerns can be addressed, amendments to the Act itself, bring that forward. But the Liberals wrote this in such a way that the provisions themselves, this is an automatic up or down. They automatically expire. There's no amendments that can be made to those two provisions. They automatically die.
The Prime Minister is misleading the public on this issue. The anti-terrorist legislation has nothing to do with Justice Major's inquiry. He has all the powers that he needs. In fact, his chief problem is that the party opposite is not providing him with the documents necessary to complete his job. And as for the RCMP inquiry into the Air India tragedy, it's been going on for 15 years. So why is the Prime Minister misleading the public on this crucial issue?
The Air India inquiry is proceeding because this government has given Justice Major and is prepared to give Justice Major all the documents and all the powers necessary to get to the bottom of it. However, Mr. Speaker, it's a matter of public record that the police investigation requires these powers to profitably proceed. The Liberal Party knows this. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Party knew this when they changed their position to oppose this bill. That is an irresponsible and dangerous action, and the Liberal Party should change course, should make sure the police investigation cannot be blocked and that we can get justice in this matter.
Why hasn't the government done a full review of the Act despite having received a comprehensive report from the Committee of the House over 5 months ago on how to improve the Act?
Committees of both chambers have been studying the bill, and the committee's been given an extension to study the bill. In the meantime, of course, Mr. Speaker, the government has proposed extension of the existing provisions of the Act. We did so with the support of the Leader of the Opposition until a couple of weeks ago when he abruptly flip-flopped his position on the issue, ignored the facts, ignored the advice of leaders of his own party, and ignored the need for compromise. But late last week, members of the other place suggested a specific compromise on this particular piece of legislation. I wonder if the leader of the Liberal Party would agree to that compromise suggested by his own colleagues.
The Honourable the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister must understand, we cannot extend today and worry about rights tomorrow.
I would point out, Mr. Speaker, I just offered in this question period to adopt the recommendations of the Liberal Party's own Senate report last week.
This is a joke. I don't think the Prime Minister is serious when he's proposing that.
I think the Senate's proposed a couple of things that are realistic. We want to see something. So, you know, we're open to getting something done here. It's important to have anti-terrorism provisions that are effective.
As expected, the opposition parties joined together this evening to let two controversial anti-terrorism measures expire.
The Liberal Party chose internal caucus politics over the national security of Canadians. This issue isn't going to go away. It's going to haunt the Liberal Party from now to the next election campaign. National security is the responsibility of this government. We'll not be dropping the issue. We will be doing other things. But any party that doesn't take the national security of Canadians seriously will never be chosen by Canadians to form the government of Canada.
First litmus test, has the threat increased? Yes, it has. And the second one was, have these two provisions been abused? No, they haven't. One of them's been upheld by the Supreme Court. On every rational area, these two safety precautions should have been left in place.
I think Mr. Harper is trying to scare the people in order to create a condition for an election. But it will not work. People understand that he's doing that for partisan reasons.
Only one Liberal MP broke ranks with his party last night and openly defied Stéphane Dions on those two anti-terrorism measures. He's Toronto MP Tom Wappel. The Conservatives characterized this as a flip-flop by the Liberals. Do you agree?
I characterize it as a 180-degree reversal of our position when we were in government.
The only thing that seems to have changed in the interim from that report is that the party now has a leader. It had an interim leader at the time, and it's Mr. Dion now. What do we make of that?
Well, I can explain it on a number of fronts, I guess. We're not in government. So when you're in opposition, you can say and do things that you, as we were countlessly told when we were in government, that you can't say and do when you're in government, because you've got to take your responsibilities when you're in government. That's one aspect of it.
Second, well, let me stop you right there. So you believe that this is now just opposing to oppose, to be different?
Well, that's how I explain it, but it happened so quickly. And given the fact that I'm co-author of a report which I stand by, which in my view reflected the position up until February the 6th of this year, that's why I chose to maintain the position that was in the report. By the way, the Senate then, last Thursday, issued its own report unanimously agreeing with that position, that the sections should be extended.
How do you think Mr. Dion has handled this then? Are you happy with his handling of this issue, Mr. Dion? Are you happy with his leadership?
I'm puzzled as to why the decision was made at the 11th hour. But anybody who can convince his entire caucus to vote the way he wants demonstrates some leadership ability.